You can play it if you want to, but yeah, I just don't know how it's going to sound. But I guess you're going to put in sound in post.
I'm going to put it in before all of this.
Okay.
Or after all of this, depending on where. Yeah.
Okay.
I will put it in post. Yes.
Okay, so are we just starting then?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women rewatch, or sometimes watch for the first time, iconic tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not in any way sponsored by or affiliated with any of the companies or television shows that we are talking about in this podcast. We just really like talking about TV. And today, the TV that we're talking about is Even Stevens season
Season
2.
2. Yep.
So very quickly, we talked last time about season 1 and the cast and the summary. Season 2, the summary has obviously not changed at all. We're following Lewis and Ren as they go to, I keep forgetting the name and I keep wanting to call it Baxter High. And I don't know what I don't know what Baxter High is from, but it's Lawrence Middle School, I think.
I was going to say Lincoln High, but it's definitely Lawrence Middle School.
It's Lawrence. I think I want to call it Baxter because it's similar to Wexler, which is the principal's name.
Yeah. Is Baxter maybe That's So Raven?
Well, it's Raven Baxter.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking.
But Baxter High is definitely a school. Oh, it's from sorry. And I totally messed this up while I was doing like our research in our Google Doc. Baxter High is where Sabrina goes in Greendale in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Got it.
And I don't know why that's just like the quintessential high school name for me. Anyway, we're not there. We're at Lawrence Middle School and following the shenanigans of the goody two-shoes Ren and her chaotic brother Lewis. Some cast changes of note this season. At the end of last season, we met Ruby Mendel, played by Lauren Frost, who is now Ren's best friend for the rest of the series. And about halfway into season 2, she gets another best friend, Monique Taylor, played by Kenya Williams. And the three of them just like become three peas in a pod, which is cute.
Yeah.
We also
I'm
get
into
Nelson
their
Winkler.
friendship.
What?
I said I'm into their friendship because I feel like season 1 they set up Lewis obviously with Tawny and Twitty, and it's like the little threesome. So then I think probably season 2 they decided, oh, let's do the same thing. This is working really well. Let's give Ren a little threesome, and I just think it's really cute.
I did notice that. I thought it was funny. I was like, wow, they really just said, Lewis has two best friends. Ren should have two best friends because we all have a group of 3 best friends, right?
Yep.
Like that's how we all are in middle school.
Yep.
Actually, I had more friends, but I did kind of have a group that was like 2 best friends and myself in middle school.
I feel like I had multiple best friends, but they were like, they're not part of the same group, you know?
Yeah, I had a lot of friends like that. Like I had other best friends, I would say, that were in different groups, but like my closest, I had like 2 that I was distinctly closest with, which were Giselle, who we both know, and then
Yeah.
our friend Sydney, and the 3 of us were like in all the bands together.
Cute. I love it.
But Ren gets her 3 friend group with Ruby and Monique, but she also gets Nelson Winkler, played by Gary Leroy Gray. I remember Nelson so much. You did not remember him at all.
Nope.
I distinctly remember him. And just to spoil something for you, he doesn't reappear in season 3. So I think that's
That
so
actually
funny.
makes me very happy. I found him especially irritating. He just bothers me.
Um, I didn't like him as much as I recalled liking him, but I do think he's cute. Like as a character.
Yeah.
He's Nelson's a little nerdy germaphobe, whereas Ruby's like the gossip and Monique is the fun, peppy cheerleader. So he rounds it out a little bit. Also, of note, Monique and Nelson are both Black characters, so we add a little diversity to the cast in ways that previously were mostly filled with antagonistic roles. So we're all for that.
Yep. Yep.
Thomas Grabowski also, so Lewis also gets an extra friend, I guess, because Thomas Grabowski, he's in the end of season 1 and he like becomes a part of their group in season 2.
Yep.
He's now a recurring character.
I wouldn't say he really, it's definitely still the 3 best friends, but he is kind of like I wouldn't say he's a best friend, but he's a friend in the group.
I don't know if I had you watch these episodes, but there's definitely like a couple where they're like testing his limits and like how much of a friend. There's this whole thing. Did you watch the one where he has a pizza oven?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Okay.
I was going to say that. I was like, are you referring to the pizza oven incident?
Yes, I am. And also, Larry Beale, played by Eric Ty Hodges, I just wanted to know is less present in this season. I actually don't recall any episodes that he was in. Maybe he was in some.
Yeah.
I know that he's not written off for the show because he shows up later on and in the movie. But he just kind of like, I felt like it was a big part of season 1, and then season 2 it was like, where did Larry go?
I feel like he's definitely less present, but he's still there.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's the one episode where it's like, yeah, no, okay. I remember a couple episodes that he's in now in season 2. I clearly have watched this a little while ago and have not refreshed like I was supposed to because we were getting ready and like lipstick was more important. It's fine. And then most excitedly, we get
The
Jessica's
best character of the entire show.
Jessica's favorite.
Yeah. The only reason this show basically should exist, why a whole season without him, I still don't know.
And who is that?
Beans! But also, I didn't remember his name was Bernard. So when they first called him Bernard, I was like, oh no, good thing they gave him a nickname Beans, because Bernard just does not hit the same. Like, not at all.
It hits like Beethoven the dog. Do you remember those movies?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
And then Beans is played by Stephen Anthony Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Who still looks identical, except now he's bald.
Interesting.
Did you not know that?
No, I feel like now I need to go look him up.
He's also on one of I've been watching Christy Carlson Romano's kitchen cooking videos. Jessica knows this. I watched like 10 in a day. It was bad.
They're really entertaining, and she gets really good like guest stars on it.
She really does, and I think it's a testament to like the fact that she didn't piss anyone off while she was working at Disney because she has everyone on her show, like lots of people she's never met, lots of people she did work with.
Yeah, and they all seem to really get along with her. I don't know about the segment where like her husband comes in at the end. I just like kind of find it pointless. I'm like, why are you just showing off your husband to show him off? Like, I'm just confused by it. But it is a really addicting YouTube channel. It's one of those that you can just like put on in the background, and then the next thing you know, you've watched like 10 videos.
She's just milking the fact that she has a hot husband is what's going on.
Yes.
The part that I can't get with is the intro song. I skip it every time because it's just
maybe you just don't
cutesy.
like intro songs is what we're learning.
I like our intro song.
Well, yeah, it's pretty great. So like, who wouldn't like our intro song? But I think I'm just learning that you don't like intro songs.
We'll see. Well, this is our first show. I will say, because a lot of things happened, Jessica got COVID, and
I'm okay. I got a very, very mild case. I feel like I should say this. I was very safe. I went back to work, and just due to I work in events, the environment I work in, me and my whole team got it. We all were okay, but it definitely delayed us in getting these podcasts out. So some of these episodes Amanda and I watched before I got COVID, which now is probably like 3 weeks ago. And then some of the episodes I just finished watching this past week. So we are We're gonna have to log back into our brains a little bit to remember what we watched.
'Cause I was already watching season 2 when we were recording our first episode, which was a month ago.
Yes.
But that's fine. Um, so lots of things have happened. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, Bernard Beans Aaron
Yes.
is introduced, uh, played by Stephen Anthony Lawrence, and he shows up on Chrissy's kitchen, and he looks the same, except he has a deeper voice, a beard, and he is bald, and he's been bald since he was 14, which is kind of sad because then he didn't get work. But I also learned from Chrissy's Kitchen that Kyle Massey was supposed to play Beans, which I think is
Oh.
so like interesting.
Yeah, I was just gonna say so interesting because actually the more I think about it, that could work.
I think he could have pulled it off.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it would have obviously like Beans brought and something iconic to the role because that's the role that always sticks in my head. But I do think Kyle Massey could have done a really good job with it.
So I learned two interesting things from Chrissy's Kitchen. One being Kyle Massey was supposed to play Beans. He didn't get it at the last minute, and then because the producers and creators were the same people as who made That So Raven, they kept him on, or they put him on That So Raven. But the other thing was that Beans was only supposed to be in one episode, which I think is why we're later going to have this like, wait, what moment of continuity issues, because Beans is in like the third episode of season 2, but he's not formally introduced until a couple episodes later because Stephen Anthony Lawrence would just like hang out on set. He was living in like Fresno at the time, commuting with his dad when he was going to film, and he would go like hang out by the writers and like be cute until they would write him into more episodes, and that's how he became a recurring character.
Oh my god, I love that. I was gonna say, and then I'm sure when season 2 happened, he like struck a note with the audience who watched it, which is why in season 3 I feel like he's really a prominent character.
Yeah, and Christy said to him in her episode that the producers and writers told her and Shia LaBeouf and them that like they needed Beans because they were getting too old, and he helped fit the Disney demographic.
Yep. Not wrong. Not
Which I think is
wrong.
funny because also like I don't know about you, but when I watch Even Stevens, I feel like this is clearly a show about high schoolers, and they just said that they were in middle school because they wanted to fit a specific demographic.
Oh, I completely agree. The plot lines don't make sense for middle school. They don't.
No, there's so many things. It's like, what middle school has this?
And Donnie being in middle school or being in high school doesn't make sense. Like, just put Lewis and Ren in high school and put Donnie
Mhm.
in college, and it would make sense.
But then they might feel weird about him living at home.
Yeah, but he could be going to community college. We should normalize that. It's cheaper than moving out and going to a 4-year and racking up a bunch of student loans like we both did that you can't pay off later. Like, normalize kids living at home and going to community college.
This was 2001, though.
Yeah.
I agree,
Yeah, I know.
but this was 2001.
I know. They wouldn't do that. He could go to Sac State. I attended, this is a side note, but I attended a like summer program at Sac State, and I remember I was kind of interested because I've always like liked Sacramento, but I knew I kind of wanted to go further away than that. But I was like I'm attending a program, let me just check it out and see how it is. The dining hall food was so horrible that I was like, I will never apply to this school. Like, the food freaking sucks. I couldn't eat it. I was like, not for me. That's
This
where
is
my
a
priorities
notice.
are.
Sac State, up your dining hall game. This is not to say anything bad about public schools in general. Jessica went to a great one. I went to a great one, not in California, but still a great one.
Yeah.
Jessica's mom works for the system. Just like up your dining hall game.
Yeah. Yeah, the school I went to had a great dining hall game, but Sac State needed some work. Maybe they've made improvements. This was a while ago.
So which episodes stuck? What did you think of season 2? What stuck out to you? What do you want to talk about?
I liked season 2 better.
Me too. But is that because of Beans or is that in general?
As much as I would like to say that was because of Beans, I think of the episodes I watched, he might have been in 3, but I think he was only in 2 episodes that I watched, but maybe 3. Um, I think the character development is much better. I think the writers had a grasp on where they wanted to the show to go, and the actors were all very, very green the first season. So I
Mm.
think that the second season is much better just based on experience and like seeing how the show hit with fans and knowing, okay, what are the next steps to move this forward. You could tell they knew what they were doing a little bit more, I think.
Yeah. They the actors knew the characters better. The writers knew the characters better. Um,
Totally.
they completely let go of the fact that they were in middle school and just had fun with it.
Which goes back to maybe we should have wrote them in high school in the first
Which I
place.
think is something they maybe learned from, because after this, a lot of Disney Channel shows do revolve around high schoolers. They don't even pretend to be in middle school, and I think that that's smart because let's be real. Middle school is 3 years.
Yeah.
High school's 4. It's a bigger deal. Let's not pretend like these plot lines are happening. I will say season 2 is the season I remember the most. Not necessarily like now, but it's the season that as I watched it, I remembered more of the episodes than any other
Mm.
season. And I
Yeah.
don't know why that is.
I was expecting to remember more of the episodes, but I think again of the episodes I watched, it took until the influenza, the musical episode, for me to be like, oh yes, I remember this. And then I think there was a couple others that I was like, oh, this is very familiar. But I was expecting to remember most of them, and there was really only like 2 or 3 that I had clear memories of watching.
Do we want to talk about Influenza the musical? Do we
Do
want
we
to just
want
get
to
that one out
start
of the
off
way?
there?
I mean, do we build up to it or do we get it out of the way as like the
I think we
biggest
build
thing?
up to it. I think the first episode I want to talk about is The Secret World of Girls.
Oh my god, loved this episode. This was episode 7,
Yes.
and the basic premise, I don't remember, like, every detail, but the basic premise is that Ren is having a sleepover, and Lewis has decided to sell tickets to the Secret World of Girls. He, like, has Tom set up tech everywhere,
Yeah.
and this is also where you get your first Beans introduction, and they, like, employ Beans to help them out with their little shenanigans.
Yeah, they get him involved in it. Um I loved this episode just because I think it's a classic, like, oh, the boys are spying on the girls. Like, they want to know what girls do when it's just them. You know what I mean? It's just funny.
What they talk about, what their pillow fights are like.
Yeah. But I actually loved this episode like a lot purely for the Ren and Ruby friendship feels.
Aww.
Because Ren is like not good at girls having girls over. She doesn't really know how to entertain. She's like pretty nerdy and studious. And like Ruby is so nicely like guiding her and being like, instead of reading books, let's do this instead. Let's have a spa day. And she's doing it like so nice, clearly not trying to hurt Ren's feelings, but just like helping her out. And I just like lived for their friendship in this episode. I thought it was so sweet.
I think is this where we first see Monique as well? I think she attends the sleepover.
Yeah, I don't think she's like formally introduced until when Ren tries out for like the
Yeah.
cheerleading squad,
Mhm.
but I do think Monique is at the sleepover.
Yeah. I recall lines like about her having planned every detail out, and like I heard that you might have this like really specific agenda, and Ren's like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah. Yeah.
It is cute, and like at first she doesn't want to call it a sleepover. What does she want to call it? Do you remember? It's
Oh, I'm trying to
like a
see if I
young a young woman's like soiree or something,
Yeah,
overnight
or like a young
soiree.
women's summit, maybe?
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
She's like, "It's not a slumber party, don't call it one."
Yeah, it's a slumber party.
I also didn't realize that Lewis gives Beans the infamous Beans moniker. I didn't know that. I didn't know we got an origin story for Beans until I watched this episode. Where like as soon as we see Beans walk up and he introduces himself, Lewis is like, "I'm not saying that. I'm gonna call you Beans."
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one who kind of tags him. Even though, which I think you briefly mentioned, we already had a full episode with Beans. But this is
Yeah,
the moment where they are like, okay, this character is here to stay a little bit longer at least. Let's give him an introduction so you know who he is. Which the same thing happens in this season as well with what's his
Nelson.
name? Nelson, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Season 7 is when we get Beans formally introduced. He's
Episode
moved
7.
in near I thought he moved in next door and that was like the reasoning for it, but like later on you find out he doesn't live that close by at all. Although to be fair, the episode that I'm referencing is like a whole did you watch the alien one?
No, I don't. Are you
That
sure
might be
that's season
season
2?
3. I'm not
Okay. Okay.
sure
I
right
didn't watch
now.
anything about aliens.
Anyway, Beans is nearby. He shows up at the Stevens house. He causes trouble, and what we've seen him in episode 3, which is broadcast blues, where Ren is like interning for the local news station, and she needs a story for the anchor. I don't remember why she needs a story. It's like a contest or something.
Yeah,
Oh, there
she's
is a
trying to become
contest.
like the junior reporter or something.
Yeah, and Lewis and Twitty are totally in because they are obsessed with the, like, goofball weatherman, so
Yeah.
they decide to help her out by coaching Beans into pretending that he's a super genius. But then, plot twist, the lady that Ren is interning for is actually, like, a total bitch and wants to steal Beans and this story from her and use it on air for her big break to get to Cincinnati, which is kind of, like, funny, but I think it's actually a joke. Like a lot of people start up in Cincinnati. That's like where I don't know if you know this. Do you know this,
In
Jessica?
news?
I don't know if it's a thing anymore, but it used to be in like when Letterman was coming up, he started out in Cincinnati and that was like seen as like the post before you make your break.
Interesting.
I
Because I remember
think I
watching
could be
and being like,
completely
huh,
off.
Cincinnati, that's interesting. Like,
It's also just a funny joke, right? Cuz like what's Cincinnati?
yeah. Because I was like, what is Cincinnati more like groundbreaking than Sacramento? Like, I don't know. They just seem the same to me, like on the same pedestal, but
At
I
least
didn't know.
Sacramento's a capital city. Cincinnati's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so she wants to steal Beans and so they basically let Beans off the leash and he gets to uh just be dumb because he is and be obsessed with bacon. I think I had you watch this just because it's Beans's first episode and I wanted you to know that he was in the show before he was in the show.
Yep. Yep. And that's about all I took away from that episode.
I also made I made or you made one of us made the note about Donnie. Did you make the note about Donnie?
On
Because
episode
one of us
3.
made a note that says
Oh
Donnie's
my
plotline
god.
made me
Yeah,
sad.
I forgot about that.
I,
It made
I
me
forgot about it until now.
so sad. So Donnie's plot line in this episode is that he's trying to learn to be smarter,
Mm-hmm.
and it just really broke my heart because I was like, okay, at first I saw him, because you look at him and you're like, he's a college age, post college age adult. So I'm like, this is actually kind of funny. And then I really thought about, oh my gosh, in the show, he's in high school
He's like 16.
and he's like struggling with the fact that he feels stupid. And it's probably because kids are bullying him. And then it like really crushed my heart. I was like, poor Donnie,
Aw.
this is an awful plot line.
Wow, I didn't think about that at all. I just
Yeah,
thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny until I really thought about his age. And then I was like, oh my God, the fact that he like thinks he's stupid and needs to like wear glasses and do all these things to like feel smart and impress other 15-year-olds.
I feel like I'm the audience they had when this aired in 2001, and you're the audience they have now in 2020, like being or 2021, being like
Yeah.
very conscientious of what you're consuming.
Yeah.
What I liked about Donnie's plotline though is that it doesn't usually interact with Ren and Lewis's plots, but this time it did because he's watching these videos trying to seem smarter and like learning these weird phrases. Like if someone asks you a question, ask them a question back instead
Yeah.
of answering. And then he interacts with the weather or not weather, the newscaster lady that Ren's interning with, and she uses the same exact phrases back. And that's when he's like, guys, she might not be who she says she is.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of is the one who gets the wheels turning that this woman is probably not the most professional woman and she may be a little shady.
Because she is a
She
grown
is.
adult using these videos.
Yeah. She's not the best. She's just trying to get to Cincinnati.
What other episodes stood out for you?
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about episode 10.
What do you mean? Why wouldn't I want to talk about episode 10?
Okay, great. Let's talk about it. Well, I just think based on your notes, I feel like you maybe enjoyed this episode a little bit more, but I liked it too, and I thought it was nice. So in this episode, essentially what we see happen is Ren's dad gets involved in her school life and he takes the kids on a bird watching trip because he's really into bird watching, which I thought was random, but
Me too.
I was like, what? How does he know so much about birds?
I
But
was like, he's a lawyer. When does he have the time?
yeah, that was my thing. I'm like, is this connected to his job? And then I was like, no, because he's a lawyer. Like,
But also I'm finding this is like a wealthy, like a well-off older white person thing because like my CEO posts about his bird watching in his Friday emails to the company that he
oh,
started doing a year
interesting.
ago. So, and there's some agents I follow on Twitter who do it. So I feel like it's just like a thing.
Yeah, like a wealthy white person thing.
Yeah, you have the time to sit around and try to watch birds. I will say I made a bird feeder recently and the birds just discovered it. And it's the best thing I've
Oh,
ever done. I don't even
fun.
like birds, but I can see it from my desk, and I kept a tally yesterday, and I got 14 customers yesterday.
Cute. I love that. That's another side note, but did you see, I don't know, it was months ago. Do you follow Spencer Pratt on Instagram? I feel like you don't follow him on Instagram.
I don't, but I know that name, but I can't place it.
The OC, right? Is that what he's from?
Was he Ryan? But was he
No.
the OC guy?
He's from one of those shows. Look, I don't know what show he is. All I know is that I follow him on. Oh, The Hills. The
Oh, I
Hills.
didn't watch The Hills. Oh, I didn't watch The Hills, but I know who Spencer is because I know Spencer and Heidi.
Spencer and Heidi Spidey. Yes. A few months ago he posted like this hat that his mom made for him that had all these hummingbird feeders in it, and he's just sitting there and all these hummingbirds are coming and feeding off his hat, and it's like, just anyone who's listening, open up your phone, open up Instagram, type in Spencer Pratt, scroll back a few months, find this little video. It's worth it. It's so amazing. It's just all these little hummingbirds coming and eating on his hat. It's cute. I loved it.
That's amazing. I wish I had hummingbirds. I didn't. I don't right now.
No.
But anyway, sorry, I interrupted. So
Oh, I was just saying that,
you were summarizing.
yeah, I was summarizing. So basically they go on this bird watching trip, and Bobby Deaver is there, and also this girl Mandy always gets her man Sanchez is on this trip.
I'd like to point out I wrote the summary from memory a month after having watched this, and it only took me a second to remember her full moniker. Mandy always gets her man Sanchez.
Yeah.
It might be Mindy. I think it's Mandy though.
I think it's Mandy. And she's flirting with Bobby, who at this point is Ren's boyfriend. And basically, you just watch, like, Ren and her dad have a relationship over this. And what I actually liked about this episode, because we don't see it that often in this show, the episodes kind of exist one-on-one, but this episode is what leads you up to the cheating storyline a few episodes later. So I like that they kind of set up that plot that Mandy is trying to steal Bobby away from Ren, because it makes the storyline more probable when it actually happens.
Yes, I definitely I wasn't going to have you watch this episode. I think it's cute. I think it's largely inconsequential because it's not the episode where the big thing happens, but one of the few, I mean, really there's only like two plot lines that happen throughout the episodes that can be tied together, and that's the romantic ones. It's Bobby and Ren, and it's Lewis and Tawny. And so those ones, like, that makes it harder for me when I decide which episodes you're going to watch, because there are a lot of ones where I'm like, we could really give or take these, but they add to that plot line. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's important for us to follow the only plot lines that we get.
Yeah, yes, because everything else really is just one undone. Let's bring this up and then we're going to forget about it for the rest of time.
Episode 6 is Ren's first kiss with Bobby. They've been going out for a little bit, and she becomes like, she feels like she's being friend zoned. He's given her his Letterman jacket, and she's like talking to her mom like he just won't kiss me. Like he'll high five her when he's saying goodbye, because he's clearly like awkward. And then eventually they kiss, and it's really cute. And then you basically don't see Bobby again until Devil's Mountain episode 10, which is where we get Mandy always gets her man Sanchez, who's flirting with Bobby, and Ren's dad is being overbearing, and she's like, Dad, can you just fucking let me live? I need to go get my man. And at the end of it, but like, I think most of the episode Ren tries to be pretty trusting of Bobby, and at the end of it Bobby is like, oh, today was fun, but like I missed hanging out with you. And I really like that as well. I like the episode like without the plot line. I actually kind of prefer it without knowing that Bobby does end up with Mandy.
Yeah, I agree, because he kind of is like, I don't know why we were paired together. I didn't want to be paired with Mandy. Like, I would have rather spent the day with you. It was kind of cute. And then later you're like, you're lying. Also, you're 13, so what does any of this matter?
That's true. He doesn't look it. But yeah, no, I watched it and I was like, this is so cute and wholesome, and like, look at this healthy relationship for little middle schoolers. And then it was ruined. But the dad stuff is cute. I think it's funny you thought I really liked this episode from my summary. My summary is what happens when I forgot parts of the episode, because I wrote as she's annoyed with her father, but a near-death experience put everything right. I don't even know who almost fell off the cliff. I just vaguely recall that one of them almost fell off a cliff. They worked
You don't
together.
know?
I think it was the dad, because I think it would be too scandalous to have a 13-year-old girl almost fall.
Ren falls off the cliff. Ren full on falls off the cliff, multiple falls. And I remember watching it being like, this is not okay. And the amount that like it shows her falling, I'm like, she would have not been fine. Like, I feel like all she does is like, maybe she complains that she broke a nail, I think. And I'm like, girl, you have a concussion. Like,
I definitely was trying to remember this the other day when I was writing these summaries, and I couldn't recall, and I was like, it has to be the dad, because they wouldn't dangle Ren off the cliff. She's too young. That's scandalous.
it was scandalous.
Oh my god. But does he lift her up? How does she?
They don't
work
really
together somehow.
they don't really show you that part. I think they just hike back up the mountain.
But she's like on a ledge.
Uh-huh. And they just like start climbing back up the rocks.
And then they're like, here's Mandy.
Oh my god. Oh no.
Sorry. And then they're like flash to Bobby and Mandy. Or where is Nelson goes on this trip as well? Is he paired with Bobby and Mandy? Or is he with someone else?
I think he's with Ren.
No, isn't it Ren and her dad alone?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'd like to say that Ruby's the designated gossip. Nelson, I adore him. He annoys me every once in a while because he's the biggest hypochondriac ever. But he like pretty quickly fits into this girl group and he like picks up, he's the one that goes, but it's Mandy always gets her man Sanchez. You don't get a name like Mandy always gets her man Sanchez if you don't always get your man.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really funny because
And
he's like
it's cute.
a small little kid and he just like gets in with the gossip. It's cute.
Yeah, I think that his stature adds to like his adorableness when he does things like that.
So then, do you want to go from this to the episode where Bobby disappointed us?
Oh, we
Oh,
can.
where were
That
you
would
gonna
make
go?
more sense. Yeah,
Where
let's
were
do
you
that.
gonna go? Your face was expected.
Well, I was gonna go to a different episode, but I think that one is more fun. So let's go to the one where she disappoint or whoa, I can't speak. I was gonna say where Mandy disappoints us, but Bobby also disappoints us. Mandy just gets her man.
So this one, I really toyed with the idea of making it optional, and I ultimately did because I knew you'd watch it anyway. And
Yeah.
I think I did also because it like doesn't matter that much if you haven't been following the Bobby plotline. He's not like Tawny; he doesn't stick around.
Nope.
Uh, but I love this episode. I think it's so funny. I love it for a lot of reasons, but it's episode 13. It's called Sibling Rivalry.
Which, like, let's just say I feel like the writers were lazy when they titled this episode because you could call every episode of this show Sibling Rivalry.
That's fair. This is the most apt episode to call Sibling Rivalry,
Sure.
but also the series could be called Steven's Sibling Rivalry. I guess in this one, Ren and Lewis have been fighting even more than usual. Like, what else is new? And Donnie's like, you should go on the show. And he shows them a clip of the show, and I don't know what the hell the clip that he showed them is, because it's like some like, not even Dr. Phil, it's like polite, like sit down and talk to your sibling and like get along. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like if Maury was like calm and about like sibling relationships instead of about like cheating boyfriends.
It's like Dr. Phil 20 years ago. 15 years ago. I don't know how long he's been on air.
Sure, I still feel like Dr. Phil's a little more intense and like controversial, where like this show just really seemed to like, let's talk about your problems and why do you think you fight with your siblings and let's get to the bottom of this. Like, and then the show was not that.
Yeah, I don't know what Donnie was showing them, but immediately Ren's in and Lewis is like, sounds dumb. But then they're like, you can enter for free tickets to the local amusement park. And Lewis is like, I'm in. And so they join the show, and it's actually 2 days of just like competitions and kind of sibling hell. It's chaotic. The host, I think, is the same person we see in the videotape.
Yep.
Which is also what confuses me. So maybe it is the same show, and he
Oh
like
yeah,
is
they
writing.
explain it. So they explain that. So they
What?
say that it's sibling sessions, and then by the time they go on to the show, it's sibling war, is what they title it. And they had to change it because their views and ratings went down. So then they had to change the concept.
This is the difference of someone who watches the show while she cleans her apartment on Sundays at 10 episodes at a time, and someone who like actually sits down and take notes when she watches. Because I did not catch that at all.
Yeah.
And they have to like fight it out. There's some physical stuff. Like I remember there's like a boxing ring.
Yeah. With very liquidy chocolate pudding. I was like, I don't think you
Oh
could call
yeah,
that pudding. It's
there's
like
weird things.
if you put chocolate, it was more like the consistency of chocolate syrup, I would say.
Because it's too much.
Yeah, like, because chocolate pudding is, like, thick, and whatever they were fighting in was, like, very goopy and liquidy.
I don't remember a lot of the physical tests other than them being, like, embarrassing, and Ren's not thrilled to be there, and Lewis is like, "Come on!" And, like, at first, Lewis is winning because Ren's so caught off guard by the platform, and then she, like, starts to do better because she is still the most competitive person you'll ever encounter, fictionally or otherwise, in your life. So she has to, like, show him up. And the last thing is they have to bring a tape of, like, the ultimate embarrassing thing to the show for the last day of filming. And Ren brings uh, um something. What was Lewis doing?
She brought his bed sheet.
Oh, right.
She brought his bed sheet and, like, labeled it and was like, "This is a mix of, like, pasta sauce, dust, and cat hair, and we don't even own a cat." And, like,
Yeah.
this is, like, there's, like, little, like, mushrooms growing on a portion of it. So she, like, brought his bed sheet and had it all labeled and was, like, demonstrating how, like, gross Lewis is.
I remember watching it and thinking, like, it wasn't that embarrassing.
No, I didn't think it was that, because, like, Lewis knows he's messy, he doesn't care. Like, that's not
Yeah,
embarrassing to him. It's not embarrassing him. Like,
exactly.
that's
But
something he almost embraces, even in season 1.
Twitty was like, "Oh, she got you good."
Yeah.
I was like, but she didn't.
Yeah.
And like that would be embarrassing to Ren, but it's not to Lewis.
Yeah.
Lewis has a videotape, and I don't even recall how he happened upon this incident, but he managed to tape uh, Bobby Deaver, Ren's boyfriend, with Mandy Always Gets Her Man Sanchez.
Yeah.
And we don't see him in between Devil's Mountain and Sibling Rivalry. So it's from him reassuring Ren to him. I think they hold hands and I think they kiss.
They kiss.
Yeah.
I was like, "Ooh, scandalous."
Lewis has this video that is clearly going to be the ultimate embarrassment. But then, like, he has a change of heart at the last minute and he just doesn't show it.
Yeah. It was actually very sweet. I don't know if he ended up showing it to Ren, but he definitely ended up telling Ren. I think he ended up showing it to her privately. So then she went and broke up with Bobby Deaver, obviously.
Yeah. He
But it
shows
was
it to her
very sweet.
privately.
It showed that, like, at the end of the day, he does have heart.
I agree. And she breaks up with Bobby at the very end, gives back his jacket. And Lewis is like, "So who are you taking to the amusement park? Is it too soon?" Like literally, like she hands back the jacket, walks away, and Lewis is right there on the steps and he's like, "So who are you going to the amusement park with?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
is it too soon? Is it too soon now?" Um I really love this episode for a lot of reasons. I think it's like classic early 2000s zany premise. Like this is nothing that would ever happen to anyone in real life. Um and also I like that Lewis has heart, that ultimately he's going to do the right thing. We see that throughout the series. And this was like probably the most touching moment, I think, of the whole series where he does it.
Yeah. I think definitely from this season, it was the most touching moment. I know in season 1, I was really touched. I spoke on it in the last podcast, but about the pearl necklace moment between Ren and Lewis. I don't remember all the background of it now.
It's the
Um,
first episode.
yeah, I thought that was a very touching moment, and this kind of brings back those feels again in this season, which was really nice to have because we didn't really get anything that like kind of deep rooted kind of like sibling love we hadn't really seen in this season to that level until this episode.
And we don't really get it again,
No.
too.
Let's talk about episode 19, Sadie's Hawkins dance, and let's start out with, you guys can guess what this episode is about. The Sadie's Hawkins dance.
Another lazy title.
But can we talk about the dance theme?
Oh my god, it's so bad.
The theme is hillbilly, guys. Not like country western, like, no, we couldn't title it something normal. Hillbilly.
And you know who goes all in is our new best friend, Monique. For some reason, she's like, oh, you want to, Lewis, do you want to talk about this episode? Do you want to set it up?
Yeah, so summarizing this episode, it's a Sadie's Hawkins dance. You know, all the boys are kind of worried about like who's going to ask them. Twitty has like 15 million offers, which like obviously he's a cutie. Like everyone in middle school would have a crush on him. Ren doesn't ask anyone because she has a pig, because a pig was ordered in for the hillbilly theme.
She asks people. At first, she doesn't want to ask
Oh,
anyone
she
because
does
of
ask
Bobby.
people.
And then after a while of people ragging on her for not asking one, she's like, okay, I'll ask people. But she at that point has this pig attached to her who's like embarrassing her the whole time. She was asking guys out, but they kept saying no to her, even though they were like bottom. I don't want to say bottom of the barrel, but they were like the last people she would want to ask. And they all said no because she had this pig and it was like eating their homework or pooping or being embarrassing.
Yeah, and aggressive.
And she has this pig because, again, it's the hillbilly dance. The Sadie's Hawkins dance, which also, by the way, both of us say Sadie's Hawkins, but it's Sadie Hawkins. I don't know why it's Sadie Hawkins. Sadie's Hawkins is a lot easier to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like the fun dance. I hated having to ask a guy. I was all like empowered as a woman, and then I don't want to do that. But like it usually came around Valentine's Day, and I remember it being like a more romantic and like fun thing, and for it to be a hillbilly dance makes me sad.
I just think like why didn't they title it Country Western? Or like there could have been a better title.
A hoedown.
You know? Yeah, something. Just
Mm-hmm.
not hillbilly. Tawny's gonna ask Lewis, but Lewis ends up making a fool of himself and basically tells Tawny he has like all these girls who have already asked him, even though literally no one has asked him.
Clearly lying.
Yes. And so Tawny ends up asking this guy named Tad and going with Tad.
That's like not even a
And
name.
Lewis ends up going with Monique.
Yeah, which I think he asks her, right?
He asks Monique. No. Yes. Lewis
Yeah.
breaks the rules and asks Monique. Yep.
He's like, do you want, but he phrases it as like, do you want to have a fun time? And she's like, yeah, I'll have a fun time. Like everyone's like shocked that Monique said yes, but like it turns out she really just said yes because Lewis is a fun guy. He's a jokester, and she's not taking this in any romantic way. She's friends with his sister. She's older than him. She's way too cool for him, but she's here to have a good time and like be fun.
Yeah.
And I actually
Yeah.
really like
And I
that.
feel like it allowed her to really be herself going with him too, because she like fully embraced the hillbilly theme.
Mm-hmm.
Like blacked out her teeth.
Yeah. She went full overalls and vocal coach and you want to get
Yeah.
hitched.
Yes, yes. That was cute though.
And then in the end, Lewis and Tawny have spent too much time being jealous of each other and their dates and end up together. And Monique is the coolest person ever, and she goes and gets hitched to Tawny's date Tad to let Lewis be alone with Tawny.
Yeah. It was a cute episode. I just really needed to bring it up because of the theme.
Yes, because what is that? I don't
Yeah.
even remember what happens with Ren. I feel like she just hangs out with the pig.
The pig?
But she's like, this is what I wanted because I wasn't ready after Bobby.
Yeah. I think next, briefly, I want to just touch on super briefly before we move to, I think, the two highlight episodes of this season.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch on episode 18, which is the Thomas Grabowski affair.
Mm-hmm.
So the main plot line of this episode is Tom is getting close with Lewis's dad. After they find out they have a lot in common, and essentially this just makes Lewis feel like he's being replaced as a son.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main plot line. I don't really want to talk about that at all. I want to talk about Ren's plotline. So,
I don't remember Ren's plotline in this.
oh my god, I relate to this plotline so hard. I lived for it. So, Ren and Larry are basically called into Principal Wexler's office. He has a service opportunity for one of them for a safety demonstration. Ren ends up being able to do it over Larry. It ends up being a bike safety demonstration. And Ren tries to get out of it, but then can't. And so we learn that Ren doesn't know how to ride a bike. And so Ren tries with her mom to learn how to ride a bike. It's not going well. So she ends up showing up to the safety presentation with training wheels. Literally, no one gives a shit except Larry. Larry's trying to be like, oh, she has training wheels. And everyone's like, great for Ren for like being safe if this is the safest way she could ride a bike and for like embracing the fact that she can't ride one. I just want to say, normalize not being able to ride a bike.
Can you not
Normalize
ride a
it.
bike?
I can't ride a bike. And there was one point when she went, you know, Larry, I don't really have anything to be ashamed of. And I was like, Ren, you're right. You don't have anything to be ashamed of. You have so many other things going for you for being a literal 13-year-old. I think not being able to ride a bike is the least of your worries.
It is a very sweet moment because she's like nervous about it the whole time. And she can't. She tries multiple times to learn how
She
to ride
tries
a bike.
really hard.
And then she just gives up, but she still does the demonstration with the training wheels. And she goes, this is a safety demonstration. And if someone doesn't know how to ride a bike, training wheels are the safe way to go.
And everyone like is here for it, except of course Larry is trying to get like people to poke fun at her, but no one cares.
I would argue that, last episode we chose the family picnic maybe as showing like the most development of multiple characters in one episode. I think that's the one we went with. In this one, I would say this is that episode because we
Sure.
get a lot of Lewis's personal development as he's jealous of Tom's relationship with his dad, and he's like trying to be close with him. And we also get a lot of Ren's character development, a flaw of hers, and a way that she's like, I'm not flawed. I'm actually perfectly imperfect.
Yes, yes. I loved it. I agree. I do think this had a lot of character development and in a way we don't normally see, right? Normally we get the sibling rivalry and stuff like this, but this kind of brings in more of the family dynamic as well as just like personal struggles, because I do think like, you know, Ren not being able to ride a bike, as much as I'm like, yes, normalize not being able to do that, it is something where it's almost expected at that age that everyone would know how. So it's a little embarrassing that she doesn't know how.
I think it's cute that we wrote the notes that we focused on completely different plot lines because I didn't even write Ren's down. I'm gonna be honest, I like forgot about a lot of Ren's plot lines versus I remembered a lot of Lewis's. Um,
Yeah.
but also I have the note of it's just kind of a cute episode to be honest, and I think that goes for both plot lines.
Yeah.
Um, I really enjoyed watching it. I recall that. Like I recall finding it cute and fun and a lot more low stakes. And I think we see Lewis interact with his siblings a lot more than we do with his parents. We don't get to know his parents very much. And also
Yeah.
Tom is like the outcast who likes things that his friends don't necessarily like, and he seems to only live with his mom. We never hear about his dad. He's way too close with his mom. And so like he gets a friend.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of cute.
Yeah, and I also think it shows that dynamic too of like parents can't get too invested in their children's friends. Because I think this is a real thing that like I don't think it ever necessarily happened personally to my parents, but I definitely know other parents who got too invested into their children's friends, and that causes issues too. And so watching Steve Stevens realize, like, oh, Lewis is being personally affected by this. That was never my intention as a parent, you know?
Mhm.
It was a little more of a deep moment.
I can also appreciate it as the kid who, like, spent every weekend at another kid's house. We were best friends. She was my best friend, but her parents were like my other parents. It was like my other home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you only wanted to touch on this briefly on our
Yes.
way
That
through.
was brief. On our way to whoa, I can't speak. Influenza the musical, which is episode 16.
This is the episode I remembered the most, hands down, will never forget. Did you recall this one?
This is the first episode of the ones we watched that I recalled having watched before. Because at one point I was like, are they stealing these musical songs from actual musicals? And I was Googling it and I was like, nope, I just remember these songs from watching it. Like,
I didn't. Okay, so the plot's super simple and easy. Ren's really sick. Her mom has her fall asleep watching these like old western musicals, and she like has this whole big musical dream sequence that she's at school and like forgot a project and stuff, and there's just song after song after song. And Chrissy Carlson Romano, who plays Ren, has said that that was her favorite episode, probably because it was like showing off her different skills. She sings quite a bit. I did not remember how we dove into this song, this musical premise, but I recalled the songs in that when she's sick and she's laying in bed in the beginning, her mom puts on a movie and it starts with this song, the da 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 da, but it has different lyrics, and I was already singing "We went to the moon," and I didn't even know. I was like, wait a second, where do I know that from? And then I think I Googled the song, and then I was like, of course, it's from later in this episode.
yeah.
That song, I remembered every song, but that is the one song that I will never forget.
Also, I watched this episode. So when I got COVID, I ended up quarantining with one of my coworkers who also had COVID at the same time. So we were both pretty sick. And I was like, oh, I need to watch some episodes for my podcast. She's like, great. She's a little bit older than us. She's about 3 years older.
Oh, that's not
So I
much.
was like, oh, were you an even Stevens watcher? And she was like, no, I really didn't start watching Disney shows until more That's So Raven. Like, I was never a big Disney kid. So she had never watched even Stevens. And of course, the first episode we watch is this one. And she was like, Jess, this is some fucked up shit. I was like, yeah, it is kind of a weird episode.
Look, even
Like, I didn't
Stevens is
try to
like a
try it.
it's the trial run series. It's Disney
Yeah.
Channel figuring out what they're all about.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not so sure. She's like, she said she had definitely seen the movie before, but she was like, I'm not so sure about this as a TV series. I was like, well, it was made in like 2000, 2001. So like,
It was right before Raven. It was the same people. Also,
yeah.
I bet you if she rewatched Raven, she would have similar feelings because that show's all kinds of. I mean, we'll
Yeah,
get into
I'm
it
sure.
in a few months, but for sure, this is like I think this one and another episode we're gonna talk about in this podcast episode are gonna be like the most ridiculous things. But a lot of Disney shows ended up having a musical episode. And a lot of shows
Yeah.
in general for teens have musical episodes, I think.
Yeah, I do think it's a reoccurring Disney theme to throw in a musical episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fun, and it ends up being one of those, like, obviously reason why both of us recognize the songs. I thought they were ripping off another musical. You just started singing it. Is because those episodes I think got replayed the most.
Yeah. They got replayed a lot. I recall finding them cute when I was younger and annoying when I was older. because the songs got annoying and they got replayed all the time and I was sick of it.
Before we move on to the next one that I think we definitely want to talk about, do you want to touch on your fun little tidbit about Kyle Massey? Throwing it back
Because
to
I
him.
watched him in her kitchen cooking episode. That was the other
Yeah.
fun fact I learned from Kyle Massey is that so he they were talking about, like, their favorite episodes and things that happen on their shows and stuff, and she mentioned this episode, um, and he went, "That is straight up how I learned when we went to the moon," and she was like, "Not you too." But that's, like that for me is how I remember when the lunar landing was. Like, most of the time I have a history degree, and I don't remember most of the time.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, that song then, I was singing it, and I was like, "Now I'll never forget."
Yeah, that's how, like, I don't remember how the song goes, but when we eventually get to Hannah Montana, that's how I feel about the episode where she sings the Bone
"We're
song.
doing the bone dance,
The
we
Bone
dance and
Dance,
we learn it." Yeah.
again and again till we
Also
get
the tune of
it
"Nobody's
right.
Perfect." Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that
um,
one earlier today for some reason.
yeah, it's a good one. Okay, so episode 15 is Wombat Love. Um,
Wombat
Ren,
Wove.
this is it's Love.
Wove.
Love. This is the one where we really learn more about Monique. So Ren joins the cheerleading team, and Lewis, who becomes obsessed with the coach, becomes the school mascot. He blows off Tawny because he thinks that he's in love with this coach. Um, and Lewis then learns that the coach has a unibrow and falls out of love with her, and ends up saying he can't be the mascot, I'm pretty sure. And then Ren just really struggles being Peppy. Like, she can't do it, and it becomes too much when she tries. And so she gets let off the team and is like super relieved. But her and Monique continue their friendship, which I think is really fun.
I really like this episode, but it's also one of the ones that I remember the most. I don't know
Okay.
why. This one, an influence of the musical, I remember a lot, and I think it's because of the unibrow. I don't know why unibrows are a thing that they do. I feel like that and like hairy moles, they're like
Yep.
ugh. I specifically remember that point of it. I didn't remember like anything else about the plot, just that there was a coach that Lewis liked that had a unibrow and then he stopped
Unibrow.
liking her. I think he apologizes to Tawny for blowing her off and she's like, "Okay." But I made a note here about how she makes a joke. I think cuz he's the wombat and he says something like he has to be the wombat and she's like, "Well, you're just acting like a jackass." Uh, and I was like, did she just that was very loosely animal related joking. That was mostly just a swear word
Yep.
that she
Yep.
just threw out there. Um, and you can make the same joke without Jack, and then it would straight up not be Disney appropriate. But I was like, "Oh, is this Disney appropriate?" This is like back when Disney was still kind of doing what Nick did, which is like throw in jokes for the adults. I was
Yeah.
very surprised that that was in there. I mostly like it for Ren's plotline though, because Lewis is ridiculous, and Ren, you get to see like it's like an explanation as to why the perfect child is not doing this one thing that like stereotypically she would be doing.
I think this season we get a lot of more development of like Ren is perfect without being perfect, which is nice. Like, we saw that in her not being able to ride the bike. We see that in this episode that she is the perfect child. But there are still things that like don't interest her and that she's not good at, and that's normal.
Yeah.
Like, no one can do everything, which is nice. I do have to say this episode takes the cake for worst CGI. There's one part where like Lewis's tongue falls out of his mouth or something, and it
Oh,
is
does it is it like The Mask or something? Like the Jim Carrey The Mask where he's like,
yeah. And then the jetpack scene, I was like, oh no, like even in 2001, like who was reviewing this footage and was like, oh yes, this is good enough to go to air? Like, it
that was
looked
the best they could
horrible.
afford.
That's true. That's true.
You know what I did learn about Even Stevens recently, and I just had to look it up to make sure I said it correctly, is that it was shot with time lapse or fast motion photography, which is employed in every episode, apparently, which is that time lapse you get of like when you watch grass grow, or I watched a really cool one that's on the Wikipedia page
Oh.
for this type of capture of like roots growing down and bean sprouts sprouting, which like really freaked me out to watch, but I couldn't look away. Um,
Yeah.
they every episode apparently employs it at some point, which is probably most of the times when we see Lewis like through the halls.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. That's kind of fun. I like that little fact.
But yeah, I liked it. I liked Ren, and I liked that when she got let off the team because Ren isn't peppy enough, and then she gets too peppy, and she's like peppy all the time at home, and her parents are like, Ren, calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
And then she gets back to her normal self and she's like, girls, what are you even doing? This is meaningless. What are your cheers even doing for people? And they're like, you need to go. But I liked that when they let her down, that it was like amicable. She was like, all right, that's fine. And they stayed friends. And then Monique becomes one of her best friends. And like there's no hard feelings.
Yep. I like that because it felt very real.
Like, let's have girls support each other.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to get to the one that I think probably gave you PTSD?
Oh my god, yes. Okay. I'll let you do the summary on this one. But this, I think, is a standout episode of maybe the. I mean, I haven't seen season 3 yet. But, like, so far of the series, it is a standout episode. Episode 11, which is a very scary story.
It's Halloween, baby. We love a spooky Halloween episode. Disney loves a spooky Halloween episode. But for some reason in 2001, Disney was feeling a little extra spooky. They hadn't quite perfected the kids' spook yet. This is not your Liv and Maddie spook. This is not your Sweet Life spook. This is like actually kind of scary. So it's Halloween. Ren is like, whatever, it's fucking Halloween. It's every other day. Halloween is for kids.
She doesn't care.
Lewis is like planning this huge prank. He's got the costumes. I don't even remember what the prank is anymore, but he and Tawny and Twitty are going to do this prank. But then everyone in school starts acting kind of strange. They go in for their eye checks, which Ren is running. They're free eye checks, and they come out with glasses on, and they're all drinking milk, and they're like, Lewis, you should really get your eyes checked. It's important. And his friends start being like, pranks are childish. It's like, do you ever think about the future and how important this stuff is and blah blah, and like very monotone. And he's like, what the hell is going on? And by the end of the day, like everyone is doing this, and he's the last person left. And it turns out Ren, with the help of Principal Wexler and Coach Tugnut, is brainwashing the entire school, and then this is only phase 1 before she turns them into clones of herself, because they have to be the perfect student just like her and follow the rules.
And in order to turn everyone into clones of herself, all of their eyeballs get removed.
Oh yeah.
And they show it. They show them lifting up their sunglasses and them having like, oh, no eyes. It's terrifying.
That is the part that's like Disney hasn't perfected its like child-friendly spook yet, is where like you straight up see them with no eyeballs. And I'm sorry to anyone listening to this who maybe doesn't have eyeballs, because I know that there are people out there who don't have eyeballs for various reasons, like cancer. However, this was some bad CGI, no eyeball shit all over this children's show, and it was scary.
It was like horror movie, no eyeball shit. This episode terrified me as an adult. So like, I have no memory of watching this as a kid. Like, it's so scary. I'm like, who let their children watch this episode?
This is the only one you texted me while you were watching it to be like, why didn't you warn me beforehand?
Yeah, I really did need a warning. Like that this episode will give you nightmares. It's not okay.
Did you have nightmares?
You know, I don't think I did, but it was very stressful. I have no desire to ever watch it again. I do think the Halloween episode is a fun thing that Disney does in multiple series. They did not nail it on the Even Steven Halloween episode.
I disagree. I like this one. I think that usually the Halloween episodes are too cheesy. There's absolutely zero stakes. And I'm not really into it. And I love Halloween. I just don't think that they really capture for something we may talk about later on in like a year given this pace. There's an Austin and Ally Halloween episode where they just like tell each other spooky stories. And like they're
Cute.
telling each other spooky stories. I liked this one because it had stakes, and I think it all ends up being a dream, and there's it's not real or something, right? I think it's like Lewis's
Yeah, it
nightmare.
just ends up being a story. This is where we get more Beans, actually. It ends up just being a spooky story that Lewis is telling Beans.
Right, and then Beans is like terrified to look at Ren.
Yeah.
Also, my favorite part is that the only reason that they're all drinking milk after the eye exams is because Principal Wexler ordered too much milk and he needs to get rid of it before it goes
Yeah, he
bad.
needs to get rid of it. It's pretty good.
I don't know. I like that it was a little bit scary. I think it was fun.
Yeah, I just don't think I'm a fan of the spook. Like, I don't need to be spooked.
I like scary movies though, so I guess that's fair. But this I wouldn't call it. It's not like The Grudge.
No, it's definitely still Disney-fied,
I think it's interesting you call that like the most iconic or memorable episode because I would say it's Influenza the Musical.
Oh.
I remembered that one. I did
I
not
would
remember
think-
the Halloween one.
Yeah, I guess freshly watching it was the most memorable.
Mm-hmm.
When I go back to actually what I remembered as a kid, it's Influenza the Musical, for sure.
Interesting.
For sure.
I just wanted to throw out the few inconsistencies that we noticed, the "Are you serious" moments. As we mentioned, Nelson is Ren's childhood friend, and in episode 1, he's already her friend without explanation, and then he's reintroduced in episode 4 as her long-lost childhood friend, and we're like, but we already know Nelson. And then Beans is in episode 3, and then he's formally introduced in episode 7. I have an issue with this. I'm going to have an issue with this throughout. It's something kids television does, and I think that they do it because so much of it is syndicated and it just keeps playing reruns, and they think that their audience is too young to care. I cared as a kid. I cared. And maybe even Stevens, it was reruns, so I didn't care. But if I was watching Wizards of Waverly Place or Hannah Montana, something I watched as it came out, I noticed and I cared.
Yep.
And when I'm rewatching it on Disney Plus, you best believe I care.
Yeah, it bothers me because they do it a lot.
Yes. Another inconsistency, another little "Are you serious" moment. Episode 12 is all about Ren getting her braces off, but she's already had them off all season.
Yeah,
so I was like, wait a second, that's right, she had braces in season 1. Also, we haven't mentioned this in any of our episode summaries yet, and we skipped a couple of the episodes where this is really a thing. But this middle school, Lawrence Junior High, has an elevator. An elevator specifically for Principal Wexler with a little man, not an actual little man, but he's compact, who is an old-timey elevator person. Why? Why do they have an elevator, Jessica?
Yeah, also not only do they have an elevator.
Yeah, I meant
which makes
the little man.
Yeah, his name is Shorty.
Yeah.
It's a butler. It's a butler named Shorty who just his full-on job that he's getting paid for is to just live in the elevator and open it and greet Principal Wexler.
He's what's it called? You work in hotels. A bellhop?
Yeah, I would say he's more of a doorman.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't lift bags or anything. That's what a bellman does,
Mm-hmm.
He's more of a doorman. He's just there to greet you, be nice, and open the elevator and press the fucking button for you. I didn't understand.
What? Nice.
No middle school, no public school has the budget for that.
Season 1 felt real plot lines. Like, they were trying to think about what middle schoolers were going through with a little bit of extra oomph because Lewis is a jokester. Season 2 felt like, look, all bets are off. We're gonna do whatever the hell we want. We're gonna have some fun with it. So we get our musical episode, we get our Halloween episode, we get all kinds of like weird plot lines. We get Beans, who is just unrealistically like out there, outlandish. Uh Tech that can spy on sleepovers and like all kinds of things. And also we get this elevator and Shorty and no explanation just in a couple episodes. Because why the hell not?
Mhm. Yeah.
They're just like season 2, we have the budget.
Yep. Exactly. I think the other thing, I put two quick things.
Mm-hmm.
In one episode, they referred to Chico as, in the Halloween episode, as the fake eyeball capital of America, which I was like, are we just trying to like throw out some NorCal cities here because they're like showing the NorCal love? So they're based in Sacramento, they're throwing out Chico.
Probably.
I thought that was weird. And I did a lot of research.
Yeah, I love that. You searched this. Did you search Chico specifically, or did you search fake eyeball capital?
I searched both. Really, you can't really find a fake eyeball capital. Also, it's definitely not Chico.
They were definitely just throwing out a NorCal city. And I love when shows
Yeah.
do that as if that's a thing that kids do, that they're like joking, like if it'd be like if we were like, oh, that's Fresno, it's the like chicken feet capital of America. Like that means absolutely nothing. And also I had no impression. I still have no impression of Fresno, but I definitely had no impression of Fresno as a kid. The closest we got was Gilroy's the garlic capital. And you know what? That actually is accurate. If you drive through it, it smells like fucking garlic all the time,
Garlic.
year round. Other than that, like, you don't talk about cities like that.
No. They reference Gilroy too.
Yeah,
in
as
one
like
of
the
these
garlic
episodes.
capital though, right?
They're showing a clip of like the largest garlic that was ever produced in Gilroy, and it's this man holding like this giant piece
Oh,
of garlic.
that's right. It's on the news.
But also, like, that could be realistic because like Gilroy has the garlic festival every year, and like there's a lot of crazy things at that garlic festival, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was like the largest garlic produced. I think the last kind of are you serious moment that I wanted to point out is in episode 16, Influenza the Musical. There's this whole song with Coach Tugnut and the boys, and they're in PE class, and he's doing like his physical education test.
Isn't it
And
like
there's a
the
part where
master
they're
of the
on the
gym?
treadmill,
Mm-hmm.
and they pan down to the treadmill. It's not on. It's not on. And they're like running crazy fast and like slipping and falling, and the treadmill's not on.
I didn't notice that, but how do you film that? Because you can't run on a treadmill that's not on. Like, you trip and fall, it's sticky. That's like running in place.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very confusing because it's not on.
But I didn't notice that. That's a good catch.
Yeah. Well, both a different Amanda who I was quarantining with, we had to rewind it because we were like, wait a minute, is that treadmill even on? We both caught it because we were like, this makes no sense.
Do you want to do the best and the last?
Yes. Would we like to do worst first?
I said the best and the last.
I knew what you meant. Okay. My contenders for worst are episode 3, which is the broadcast blues.
Okay.
Just because, like, yes, Beans was introduced, but I just thought it was kind of a boring episode. And the newscaster lady's evil, and just like, I don't know, I found myself getting very distracted.
Okay.
And then also episode 15, I wrote as possibly the worst. I would say that if I'm gonna pick one, I don't know. Probably episode 3.
I'm surprised you're going for episode 3 because you like Beans so much. That's basically
I
why
know, but I just didn't love that episode.
the first season I like had contenders for best and worst, and I made you watch I included those in the episodes. I have not prepared any best or worst this time. I have not thought about this, and I'm just making you watch episodes that I think are important because there aren't that many standout bad episodes the way that there were
Mm.
in season 1, like the deep chocolate, whatever that was,
Yeah.
mess or the bullying and stuff. It's chaotic season 2, but it's not bad.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. It's way better. It's much better. The episodes are far improved compared to the first season.
I think similarly, Devil Mountain was kind of boring.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if we're
Uh,
talking about characters, like Beans is more exciting than Mandy always gets her man Sanchez. So like,
do love Nelson saying the moniker. The first episode, Starstruck, also pretty bad. That was the British boy band one.
oh, I only really enjoyed that episode because Ruby's
Obsession.
obsession, but also her room is covered in posters, and that was my room in high school.
But they're all of the same band. You know, I looked it up recently and that is a real band. And they disbanded
Oh,
like
really?
right after they were in this
Of
show.
course.
And then they reunited in 2020 because everyone reunited in 2020.
Yeah, there's nothing better to do.
Thin Ice was kind of boring. Episode 4. These are the episodes we didn't even talk about because they weren't that significant, but that's like Nelson's introduction. I did like that one because Nelson gave Ren some tough love
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that one.
and also my favorite lines of the season, the way that last season was uh "Oui, monsieur." This
Yeah.
season, this season, my favorite line was in episode 4 where Ren goes, "I'm not a good liar," and Ruby says, "You can do anything you put your mind to."
Yeah.
I was like, "This is fantastic friendship." Like,
Yeah.
um,
You can do anything you put your mind to. Yeah, that was cute.
I think for me it's Devil Mountain or Broadcast Blues.
I think if we're saying like, because those both were boring, I think Devil Mountain is worse purely because Beans is not in it.
Also, like Ren falls off a cliff and I couldn't even remember it.
Yeah, you didn't even know that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the worst
Worst
episode is
episode. Episode
episode
10?
10. Episode 10, Devil Mountain. We're giving you the worst, but you weren't really that bad. So, you
Yeah.
set up a plot line. That was important. We'll give you that.
Yeah. And I would say best
Mhm.
for me is episode 18, The Thomas Grabowski Affair. I think we had a lot of fun character development. Ren normalizes not riding a bike. There was a lot I enjoyed in that episode.
Which is so funny because you wanted to touch on that quickly.
Yeah, it's still, even though I said I wanted to touch on it quickly, which we didn't end up touching on it very quickly, it was always listed as my favorite of the season.
Oh my god. Yeah. I like it a lot. I can't think of anything else that tops
Great.
it. I didn't expect to just like, oh, you know what? Okay. I guess my other contender is sibling rivalry. I really like sibling rivalry. I really like the shows where Ren and Lewis interact a lot,
Yeah.
where their plot lines are together instead of separately. Um, and it's zany and it's very 2000s.
Yeah. If I was going to argue towards episode 18, the only reason I think it's better than that is that we get more character development and development of relationships we haven't seen before, where we have seen the development of Lewis and Ren's relationship, which is kind of what sibling rivalry gives us. We didn't really get it this season that much, which is what makes that episode really good. But this gives us, Lewis and his dad, Ren kind of learning that, it's okay to not be perfect and embrace that. So there was like, and the relationship between Ren and her mother, truly trying to like teach her to ride the bike and support her in that. That was kind of fun to see too.
I forgot about their mom entirely up until this moment that you mentioned. Like, not even just in this episode, but like in the show.
Yeah. She doesn't really exist in season 2.
No. I think it's a little slower. I don't like Tom as much as most of the characters.
Mm,
It's not quite as
I would
like
agree it's slower.
entertaining as sibling rivalry, but it is better quality writing and plot lines.
Yeah.
Which one would you sooner rewatch?
I would sooner rewatch, honestly, Sibling Rivalry. Which one would you sooner rewatch?
Sibling rivalry.
Yeah. I think we gotta give it to Sibling Rivalry.
I almost gave that one up real quick, but I pulled it back.
Yep. You held on to it.
So that was season 2 of Even Stevens. Overall, impressions are we're getting a lot better. Like already Disney is improving quite a bit. And we're enjoying it. We're along for the ride. And I have to say, we slowed down watching, and that made me enjoy the intro a lot more. When you're not powering through 10 episodes in a row, the intro's okay. I would like to say thank you to Patrick Dunovit for our lovely, lovely jingle, which is so fun. And also Don Wheeler, who at this time has given us artwork that isn't quite there yet, but we're really excited about it. And with the time that you're listening to this, we'll be done.
Yes. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at 90s Babies Nostalgia. Spell out the word 90s. It's not 90. As well as on Twitter, we are 90s_babies. We would really appreciate the follow. You can also not only listen to this podcast, but you can watch this podcast on YouTube, 90s Babies Nostalgia there as well.
Yay! All our socials, which we will have up by the time that you're listening to this, and you won't know that it took us a month to get episodes done.
Yeah. And hopefully we will be recording next week for season 3. So we're going to get the ball back rolling on this so we can get all these episodes out to you hopefully soon. By the time you're listening to this, it will be out.
So yeah, you have more Even Stevens to look forward to. Next episode is season 3, the final season of Even Stevens, and then after that we'll do some trivia in that episode, and then the next one will be the movie.
Yeah, and I did want to just add one quick thing. By the time we get these out, we're trying to put out all of the Even Stevens ones at once for you guys so you can listen through to them. But if you have any comments, opinions, favorite episodes, I would love for you to direct message us on Instagram or on Twitter. And you can always leave a voice note just saying any of your opinions or favorite episodes, and we would love to share those on future episodes. So would appreciate your guys' responses as well.
And tips, because we're new to this, and we're clearly changing the format. We did this one differently than we did the first one. What are we going to do next time? You have to listen and find out.
Yep, we don't even know.
All right, thank you so much. If you listened this long, we'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time. Thanks.